Chapter 24:10. Hearing Tai Qianli's explanation, xianxia's heart palpitated with fear. At the same time she was deeply puzzled. The secrets involved in this matter were unimaginable. How could the legendary first primogenitor be killed by Dustless? No matter how it was explained, xianxia found it hard to accept. This was too absurd. It was as if a god who could move mountains and fill seas was killed by a weak human. It was too laughable. Hee, Tai Qianli laughed and looked at xianxia mockingly. As Tai Qianli had revealed important information, xianxia did not want him to die so quickly. At the very least, she had to extract some useful information before letting him die. Therefore, she ordered her subordinates to perform emergency treatment on Tai Qianli. Tell me everything you know about Dustless. If I'm satisfied, I can spare your life. No matter what, we are old friends. Xianxia suddenly said, as if she was genuinely kind. She had a complicated expression on her face. Xianxia, you don't have to pretend anymore. Do you think I don't know what kind of person you are? You usually like to act mysterious and play tricks on me. When have you ever told me your true feelings? Do you think I'm a child that you can fool? Tai Qianli said with disdain. Who are you? Take a piss and look at your reflection. The word, treacherous, is written on your face. Hearing this, xianxia's expression changed. She said sternly, Tai Qianli, are you going to protect Dustless? That guy killed your son, the Twilight Man, and Xuanhuan. Are you going to let him get away with it? Tell me what you know. Only then will I be able to deal with him and avenge them. Good kill. Wonderful kill. Dustless did not chop the Twilight Man into pieces. That's what I'm most dissatisfied with. Tai Qianli's incomparably valiant reply caused xianxia to be dumbfounded. Is this old man's brain rusty? Fine. Tell me what's the relationship between Dustless and the first primogenitor. Seeing that Tai Qianli refused to speak, xianxia could only ask about other things. Well, since you want to hear it, then I'll tell you. I guarantee that you'll regret it for the rest of your life. You'll completely understand how powerful and invincible that guy is. Tai Qianli licked his dry lips and recalled the events of a few years ago. His thoughts were lost in his memories. I remember one time when Dustless told me that he had found an interesting toy and was planning to leave for a while. I didn't stop him, but I asked him what mission he was going to carry out. At the time, he only said that he had obtained information about the first ancestor and was going to hunt him down. Qianli was full of admiration. In the entire world, only Dustless dared to say that he would kill the first primogenitor. Regardless of how impressed Qianli was, xianxia's red lotus jaw dropped. Are you trying to say that the toy Dustless found is the first primogenitor? Bullshit. xianxia completely abandoned her gentlemanly elegance as she rudely interrupted the crazy Tai Qianli. Old man, do you believe the words of that fellow? The way I see it, he's just bragging. He's just trying to invite us for battle merits. Idiot, I've worked with Dustless for a few years. I know him better than you. That guy might really lie to others, but he would never lie to us. There's no need for that at all. Inviting us for battle merits is even more nonsense. If he wants to, he can kill me and take the position of marshal anytime. xianxia was speechless after hearing Tai Qianli's words. Dustless was indeed not interested in the world. He was only interested in those powerhouses. So what? If I meet him in the future, I'll tear him apart and avenge Midnight. xianxia was silent for a moment before she felt relieved. She glanced at Tai Qianli and suddenly felt extremely annoyed. Slash. With a slash, the sharp blade cut off Tai Qianli's throat and ended his life. His head was even chopped off, turning him into a headless corpse. How did he find the first primogenitor? It shouldn't be. xianxia was filled with doubts that no one could answer. Perhaps only Dustless himself could answer her questions. The first primogenitor was a mysterious and unfathomable figure. He was a legendary existence. It was too surreal to think that he could be killed just like that. In fact, the first primogenitor of the vampires was indeed killed by Dustless a few years ago. As for how he found him, it was actually very simple. When the first primogenitor disappeared, he brought along Xianxia, who was also known as Agilaamaru. Dustless used him as a breakthrough point and used his Rinnegan to search Agilaamaru's memories. He found some traces of the first primogenitor. After that, he created a large army of white Zetsu to search for his whereabouts. After a period of hard work, he finally found the first primogenitor. He met the leader of the vampires. As the first primogenitor, he was definitely the strongest person in the world. Dustless naturally would not let him go. After a great battle, he crushed him and finally killed the first primogenitor. Almost no one knew about this. Dustless only told Tai Qianli about it. Hold it right there. After killing Saito, Dustless hurried back. There was about a day's difference in time. However, as soon as he arrived at the camp, a group of King Ghost Army soldiers surrounded Dustless with swords. "Are you all blind?" Dustless asked unkindly. He was the only general in the King Ghost Army. He was considered a household name. Were these idiots deliberately looking for trouble? The criminal Dustless killed Marshal Tai Tianli. You are now wanted. The soldiers surrounding Dustless were alert. Their eyes were shining. Killing Dustless promoted him by 3 ranks. I killed Tai Tianli? That's a good reason. Dustless was puzzled. He did not like the old man, but it was not necessary to kill him. There was no doubt that someone had framed him. Dustless could only think of one person who could do this. Xuanhuan. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 24:11. I didn't teach that brat a lesson, but he took the initiative to frame me. He used such a despicable trick right from the start. Sure enough, that brat isn't a good person. Dustless directly ignored everyone as he muttered to himself. All this time he didn't have a good impression of Ike's Red Lotus, not even a little. She kept saying that her companions were her family, but in the end, it was the complete opposite. Her so-called family was just a pawn used by Ike's Red Lotus. Take Tsukasa Jun for example. Ike's Red Lotus clearly knew that his sister was used as a human experiment by the Twilight people and was subjected to all kinds of cruel torture. Yet, she chose to keep her mouth shut and hide it from Tsukasa Jun. Was this how she treated her so-called family? It was worth mentioning that Ike's Red Lotus did not help Tsukasa Jun in the end. Instead, she colluded with the Twilight people and conducted the Blazing Angel experiment together. Furthermore, the experimental subject was Tsukasa Jun's sister. It was truly lamentable. Thus, Dustless had always thought that Ike's Red Lotus was a treacherous person who hid a knife behind a smile. Her so-called family was just a tool used for experiments. Tsukasa Jun's sister and Hyakuya Yuichiro were examples. Attack together and destroy this bastard. He dares to ignore us? Seeing Dustless in a daze, the Ghost King soldiers surrounding him were enraged. They pulled out their swords and slashed at him. Every one of them had a greedy look on their faces. There was nothing they could do about it. Killing Dustless and getting promoted 3 times was too tempting. Some people spent their entire lives at the bottom. Getting promoted 3 times was like a pie falling from the sky. This condition was really generous. Many people had the idea of killing Wu Qin for promotion, so much so that they even ignored his shocking strength. As the saying goes, people die for wealth and birds die for food. When the reward reached a certain level, even if they knew that there was only a dead end ahead, the people who stepped on the mine would never stop. Yasukani no Magatama. Dustless would definitely not show mercy to this group of people who were seeking death. With a flick of his finger, light bullets shot out like raindrops. Puchi, puchi, puchi. The light bullets easily pierced through the bodies of several people. They specifically targeted their vitals. Their hearts, heads, charred holes appeared. One could even smell the stench of rotten flesh. Reckless fool. Dustless only snorted coldly. He didn't even look at the corpses of these people. They were courting death, so why should he show mercy? Being able to leave a complete corpse was considered a VIP treatment. I hope those 2 little girls will be fine. Dustless lowered his head and muttered to himself. The 2 little girls he was talking about were naturally Xiaoya and Sangong Sanj. In the past, Dustless was still the only general of the King Ghost Army. Naturally, Xuanhuan was afraid of Dustless. However, things were different now. Dustless had most likely killed Tong Tianli and became the new general of the King Ghost Army. In a way, Dustless's killing of the Twilight Immortal could be said to have helped Heine's Red Lotus. If the Twilight Immortal had been in the way, he would not have been able to gain control of the King Ghost Army so easily. On the ground that was full of ruins, Dustless walked forward alone. Before the destruction of the world, this place used to be a glorious metropolis, but now it's just rubble and broken tiles. All of this was thanks to Xuanhuan. It was because of her that the world was destroyed. This is bad. When he came to the place where the King Ghost Army was stationed, Dustless looked around. The King Ghost Army, which had been in groups before, had disappeared, leaving behind a large number of vampires and King Ghost Army corpses. It can be seen that there was a big battle here before. It was most likely the battle between the vampires led by Fried and Xuanhuan. It is estimated that there was no winner between the 2 sides, and even the vampires suffered a big defeat because there were more vampires' corpses on the ground. I hope they have good fortune. Dustless muttered, and his observation hockey spread out and found that within a radius of tens of kilometers, there was no one. There were only two possibilities for Xiaoya and Sangong Sanj: either they were captured by the King Ghost Army or they escaped. If they were captured by the King Ghost Army, they would be doomed because xuanhuan has always been ruthless. Since she dared to kill Tong Tianli, why not kill Xiaoya? She was simply using her relationship, not to mention that Xiaoya was a member of the Tong family. It seems that I have to let that little girl unify the vampires as soon as possible, and destroy that group of humans as soon as possible. Dustless's eyes flashed coldly. He will not sympathize with humans or vampires. Whoever goes against him is an enemy, that's all. Inside the resplendent palace, Kelyalu sat on the throne with bright eyes. He had regained his cold and arrogant demeanor, keeping everyone at a distance. Yo. How long has it been? Queen has come out of Sato's shadow. It's not easy to come by. A sudden voice was full of ridicule. You've grown up, Klulu? Who is it? How dare you? The vampire guards around were furious. How dare you despise their queen like this? You deserve to die. Get out of here, all of you. Unexpectedly, Klulu was not angry. Instead, he said sternly, disappear from my sight in 3 seconds, or your brains will explode. Go. These cold-blooded words scared all the vampires out of their wits. They looked at each other and hurriedly fled in all directions. How can you treat your subordinates so cruelly? Aren't you afraid that they will be disappointed? After all, it's for your own safety. Countless divine lights flashed around Klulu, like thousands of fireflies dancing. In the blink of an eye, Dustless's thin body appeared out of nowhere. What kind of ability is this? Klulu sighed inwardly. He could only blame himself for being short-sighted and ignorant. Dustless appeared so mysteriously every time, and he did not notice it at all. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 rating plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 24:12. This is the devil fruit, the elemental transformation of a Logia user. Noticing Klulu's confusion and astonishment, Dustless slowly explained, elemental transformation is a very unique ability. It allows one to be immune to most physical attacks. Immune to physical attacks? Cruella took a deep breath. Although she did not know what a devil fruit was, the ability to be immune to physical attacks was already invincible. Human? The escaping vampire guards turned around and saw Dustless. They shouted angrily, stay away from the queen if you don't want to die, or else, get out of here, you bunch of trash. The impatient Klulu angrily rebuked. This time she seemed to be really angry. Her shout carried an invisible impact, and the group of vampires were all blasted away. A bunch of idiots. Why can't you see it? This guy dares to appear in my palace alone. His strength must be unfathomable. Why can't you see it? Cruella shook her head and sighed. Some people were cannon fodder. Not only were they weak, but they also had bad eyesight. How's the information gathering going? Dustless fiddled with Klulu's beautiful hair in boredom and said expectantly, the other ancestors of the vampires have also rushed here, right? Yes. Cruella nodded and reported truthfully, most of the noble vampires are here because Master Dustless killed the former second ancestor, Saito. Of course they also want to capture me, the traitor queen. Cruella's voice was filled with confusion. Almost no one knew about the relationship between her and Dustless. Saito knew a little about it, but he was killed by Dustless. However, their secret was exposed in the end. That's good. It saves me a lot of trouble. Dustless stretched his body and said with an expectant smile, I heard that the other second patriarch, Uld Giles, and the third patriarch, Lester Ka, are also here. The other high-grade patriarchs are also here. I can't wait to see the upcoming massacre. Compared to the interested Dustless, Klulu was much more serious. His small face was filled with caution. Lord Dustless, aren't you overestimating yourself by facing a dozen ancestral nobles at once? Crew frowned as he looked at Dustless. This was the first time he doubted Dustless' abilities. It was no wonder that Klulu lacked confidence. Facing multiple primogenitors, including the second primogenitor, Uld Giles, and the third primogenitor, Lester Khan, was indeed troublesome for her. Are you scared? I have a perfect plan to ensure my survival. Dustless looked down at Klulu with a faint smile. I'll hand you over to those monsters and tell them that you're the culprit. After that, I'll suck up to them. How about that? Lord Dustless is still joking at this time? Klulu rolled his eyes. Dustless was also speechless. A large number of vampire nobles were about to arrive, and this guy still had the time to tease him. Did he really think that he was the #1 in the world and was invincible? Klulu, your horizons are too narrow. A stone suddenly appeared on his fingertip. Then he exerted some force and the stone instantly cracked. Dustless then explained, those nobles are like this stone. They were lucky that no one could crush them before, but now that they've met me, bang! The hard stone turned into powder in the blink of an eye. Dustless's body was filled with an astonishing ferocious aura. They've met me. They're destined to be crushed to death. Kralik, what happened to the 2 little girls? You didn't drink their blood, did you? We have to ensure their safety. After all, they are our trump card to negotiate with Dustless. Freed and Kralik, who had been missing for a long time, were drinking in a luxurious villa. They looked at the crimson rising sun in the distance. Are you talking about the little girls called xianxia and 3 palaces and 3 leaves? Kralik swirled the red liquid in his glass and drank it in one gulp. Dustless does value the 2 of them, but he won't accept our conditions for the sake of these 2 little girls. After the battle between the vampires and the Emperor Ghost Army, 3 palaces, 3 leaves and xianxia didn't escape. Instead, they were secretly captured by Freed. Of course I know. Freed held his chin with his hand and said seriously, human nature is a strange thing. A man like Dustless does things very strangely. He might do something shocking. Just like the cooperation before, you didn't expect that guy to really help us kill Saito. Besides, some things aren't as simple as you think. Dustless watched xianxia grow up and they have a good relationship. She's the only trump card we can use to restrain Dustless. Sigh. Kralik sighed helplessly. Are you sure? Friedkoen. Against someone like Dustless, we won't be able to kill him even if we have 100 lives. But we don't have a choice. That guy abandoned us and chose to let Krulu unify all the vampires. I can't accept that. Freed revealed a rare ferocious expression. Are you willing to obey Krulu's orders? That queen is very prejudiced against us. Kralik, you might not know, right? Now Dustless and Krulu Tsapizi are fat meat. Dustless killed Saito and Krulu, the 3rd primogenitor, betrayed the vampires. This matter has caused a stir in the world. Freed then revealed a treacherous smile and couldn't help but proudly say, let me tell you, I'm the one who secretly sent someone to inform the upper primogenitors that Dustless secretly killed Saito, and that Krulu had joined Dustless and betrayed the vampires. Then I'll go crazy with you this time. If there really is a god in this world, I hope it will bless us and help us defeat the evil Satan. Kralik finally decided to go all the way with Freed. There were some things that he had no choice in. P.S. 3,000 fresh flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 rating plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 24:13. Time always passed by unknowingly. By the time they realized it, 3 days had already passed. Boom boom boom. On a certain morning, a loud sound suddenly came from Klulu's vampire city. Following that, the ground cracked open as if it had been hit by a meteor. A huge scorched pit dozens of meters deep appeared on the ground. Klulu and that human called Dustless, get the hell out here. An arrogant and unbridled voice filled the decaying city, waking up Dustless and Klulu from their sleep. Asking me to get the hell out here so early in the morning, who has such a bad temper? Dustless crawled out from his bed and lazily stretched his waist. Beside him, there was a haggard-looking girl wearing pink pajamas. This young and tender child was actually Klulu. Glancing back, Dustless saw that Klulu was also slowly opening her eyes. He couldn't help but look at her with disdain. You are still the 3rd ancestor of the vampires. Do you have to be so afraid of death? Because Dustless had too many enemies, it caused Klulu to be filled with worry and couldn't sleep well. Hence, no matter what, he had to sleep with Dustless to feel safe. It was understandable that she would think this way. Klulu was the 3rd ancestor and there were still people who could kill her instantly. For example, Giles, who was also the 2nd ancestor like Saito. She might be assassinated at any time. That's because you provoked the strongest people in the world. I don't want to die with you. Klulu said matter-of-factly. At the same time, she was very familiar with that arrogant voice. It's that guy Lester Ka. The 3rd ancestor? Dustless understood this kid. He was a child like Klulu. Go and deal with him. I heard that the grudge between the 2 of you isn't small. That's what I was planning to do. A cold light flashed in Krulu's beautiful eyes. She and Lester Ka were not on good terms. The 2 of them had fought many times, both openly and covertly. Their grudges were not shallow. After Dustless's training, Krulu's strength had improved greatly. It was more than enough to deal with Lester Ka. Swish, swish, swish. After putting on his clothes, Krulu galloped away and disappeared in a few seconds. It's hard to even get a good night's sleep. The flies come in waves. Dustless lay on the soft mattress and stared at the ceiling. That guy is your bait, isn't it? A barb to lure Krulu. You actually found out. After a while, a thin man walked out of the darkness. This person had sharp elf-like ears and handsome facial features. His face was always expressionless, giving people the first impression of indifference. You must be the second primogenitor, Giles? Knowing that the other party was the second primogenitor, Dustless could not help but take a second look at him. Am I blind? I really don't see anything special about you. You're not even as good as that Saito. Too arrogant, full of flaws. In this short moment, a ferocious-looking vampire appeared above Dustless's head. He bared his sharp fangs and was about to bite through Dustless's head. The strongest human, your blood must be delicious. Dustless had been given many nicknames since a long time ago. The strongest human was just one of them. Kinsusanu. A golden light flashed on the surface of Wu Chen's body. It quickly shrank and took shape. It covered his whole body and condensed into a fist. He waved his hand and punched fiercely. Bang! The vampire that wanted to ambush Dustless was instantly shattered by the punch. His body exploded, leaving not even a complete skeleton behind. He turned into a bloody mist on the ground. So strong. The second primogenitor, Giles, frowned. The vampire that ambushed Dustless was an ordinary noble, but he was still a famous figure. Dustless killed a primogenitor with a wave of his hand. Wasn't he a little too strong? Sword, drink my blood. A large number of spikes protruded from Giles' sword and pierced through his palm. The originally pale blade seemed to have devoured his blood and turned crimson. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. As expected of the second primogenitor, Giles sent out a destructive sword light with each swing of his blade. Dustless didn't even look at the incoming attack. He controlled Kinsusanu with his mind and formed a fist again. He punched the incoming beam of sword light. Giles snorted and said somewhat angrily, "How can my attack be compared to that trash? It's not something you can." Bang! Before Giles could finish his words, his attack was shattered by Kinsusanu's punch. The beam of sword light raged and turned into small fragments that spread wildly. Countless holes were created in the walls of the palace. There's no reason for the gap to be so big. There must be something wrong. Giles was shocked. His cheeks were twitching, and his mouth was so wide open that a fist could fit in it. You used this move to defeat him? Giles had an ugly expression on his face. He finally understood why Saito had lost. Saito's strength was completely overwhelming. It's a little more complicated to deal with him. It's easier to deal with you. Dustless said honestly. His words angered Giles. Wasn't Dustless mocking him for being inferior to Saito? Open your eyes wide and watch. Giles seemed to be truly enraged. He raised his saber again and slashed down with a slash that was even more ferocious than the previous one. That's the only move I've come up with. How boring. Dustless was dispirited when he saw this. He blinked his Sharingan again and Kinsusanu's form changed again. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 24:14. Kinsusanu was extremely powerful. Every form of Kinsusanu was extraordinarily powerful. From the simplest form of Kinsusanu to the final form of Kinsusanu, every form was powerful enough to annihilate Giles. This thing can even grow bigger? Giles was completely dumbfounded as he stared at the enlarged Kinsusanu. He stared blankly at the giant monster in front of him. All the strength in his body was drained away, and a deep sense of powerlessness spread throughout his body. Dustless's body was shrouded in a golden materialized light. This mysterious energy was controlled by some kind of will, and it eventually turned into a mighty giant. It looked like an invincible god of war. It had a Tengu helmet on its head and a thick armor on its body. Its huge eyes looked down at Giles, and Giles could not help but take a few steps back. What is this? Dustless did not mind at all. He said calmly, the Kinsusanu you see now is just the pure mature form. If you see the complete form, then maybe you will have a different expression. Compared to the complete form of Kinsusanu, the mature Kinsusanu before Giles was insignificant. Damn freak. Giles' face twitched violently upon hearing that. Judging from what Dustless said, the mature Kinsusanu in front of him did not seem to be the limit. Boom, boom, boom. All of Giles' slashes landed on the mature Kinsusanu's shell, but it was useless. It was like rain falling on a rock. There were a lot of them, but they were all useless. The dazzling sword light could not break through the Kinsusanu's defense. In the end, it scattered and disappeared without a trace. "You are very lucky to be able to die under Kinsusanu," Dustless said slowly. "Even your primogenitor did not receive such a great treatment." Giles' head almost exploded when he heard that. He asked in shock, "Why you killed our first primogenitor? Why are you so surprised? It's not like it was that difficult." Dustless's expression did not change. He was as calm as still water, and there was no trace of Giles' exaggerated expression. He had killed countless powerful beings, and the first primogenitor was just one of them. "Then you can die now." The scarlet Sharingan blinked, and a visible ripple appeared in its eye socket. Under Dustless's control, Kinsusanu immediately picked up the tachi in his hand. "You want to kill me?" "Not." Giles wasn't an idiot. He immediately berated the other vampire nobles. "You guys stay here and stall him. I'll go look for reinforcements." "Bullshit. Do you think we are idiots? Reinforcements are **T. You can you?" In the face Giles's cans in the face cans was cans to cans. Ins whoosh whoosh whoosh. Giles did not care about what others thought. He ran with all his might, turning into a blur and disappearing in the blink of an eye. Both the first primogenitor and the second primogenitor, Saito, were dead. It was not a bad thing. Giles suddenly realized that his opportunity had come. Why did he have to fight Dustless to the death? It was completely unnecessary. Even an ant would drag out its life. This sentence was applicable to all living creatures. "Let's run." The other vampire nobles were not fools either. Since Giles had run away, they would definitely die if they stayed here. They looked at each other and ran away at the same time. "You want to run? Do you think I'm air?" Dustless sneered. His body suddenly surged with a large amount of light and turned into a beam of light that shot into the sky. When he was about 50 meters above the ground, the vast land was in his eyes. Dustless controlled Kinsusanu to cross his hands, and a destructive flash appeared. "Kinsusanu, Yasakani no Magatama." In an instant, it was as if a golden meteor shower was falling from the sky. Tens of thousands of destructive lights swooped down, wave after wave. Whether in terms of power or size, they were much stronger than the Yasakani no Magatama. Moreover, the area they covered was much wider. Within a radius of a few kilometers, everything was shrouded in the destructive light. The ground was mercilessly penetrated and there were potholes everywhere. The surrounding area was like the surface of the moon, which had been inhumanely attacked and was scorched black. Who on earth created such an evil trick? Is it the devil? A large number of vampires screamed in pain. Due to the combination of Kinsusanu and the Yasakani no Magatama, its power had been enhanced by the dimensional nature. Once hit, a head-sized hole would appear on their body. It was a horrible sight. The vampires that Giles had brought with him were almost completely wiped out. They were all killed in one clean move. Fortunately, I ran fast enough. Giles was hiding under a pile of ruins. When he saw the scene outside, his body trembled. If he had been one step slower, he would have been smashed into pieces. Damn that Fried. How dare he trick me? He didn't tell me that Dustless's strength was so terrifying. Giles cursed loudly. He wished he could cut Fried into pieces. It was because this guy told him that Dustless had killed Saito and overturned the rule of the vampires in Japan that Giles came looking for trouble. Oh, so it's that brat Fried. I knew he wasn't that obedient. Sure enough, the tiger that hides in the dark is the most dangerous. You never know when it will take a bite. A cold voice came out of nowhere. Giles was shocked. He looked up. Who else could it be other than Dustless the Jinx? P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 24:15. When did you appear? I didn't even realize it. Have I become so slow? Giles clenched his fists, his face turning pale. He knew that he was now a complete stranger. Answer me a few questions before you die. Dustless didn't care if Giles agreed or not. He asked directly, Fried told you about my secret contact with Kruru, didn't he? That bastard. It would have been better if Fried had not been mentioned. However, the moment Fried was mentioned, Giles flew into a rage. That bastard dared to scheme against me. He sent someone to inform me that your strength is on par with mine. That's because you're too naive. How could you believe the words of a fox like him? Dustless shook his head. You must think that Fried wouldn't dare to lie to you because you're the second primogenitor. Am I right? Giles didn't say a word. He did think so back then, but he ended up suffering a great loss. Do it. Giles didn't want to waste his breath. He had nothing to say now. He had lost, and he had lost everything. Do you have any last words? Dustless showed a rare kindness to Giles when he saw the desolate look on Giles' face. He could understand the feeling of being deceived by a nobody. Giles probably wanted nothing more than to tear Fried into pieces. Last words. Giles opened his eyes abruptly, shooting out a cold glint. You want me to let you go? Impossible. You must die, Dustless said bluntly. Come to think of it, I've lived for thousands of years. What haven't I seen? To be honest, sometimes I feel like I'm tired of living. Giles' voice was hoarse and weathered. The light in his eyes became empty. He suddenly felt like he had seen through the world of mortals. I only have one wish. I can't stand being deceived by a piece of trash. If you can, I hope you can torture Fried. That damned bastard. Giles roared with hatred. The second primogenitor was tricked to death by the seventh primogenitor. It was a great humiliation to him. He would be laughed at even if he died. As you wish. Dustless nodded in agreement. Shortly after, a light flashed in his hand as he used the Ajuro pill to crush old Kyles. He left this world with no regrets. You want me to torture that brat? Actually, even if you didn't mention it, I wouldn't have let that kid off so easily. However, I don't seem to be very good at torturing people. Other than Tsukuyami, there doesn't seem to be anything else. It's better to leave it to someone else. Dustless's lips curled into a faint smile. Abuse? It just so happened that there was a master in this field who could be of service. On the other side, Klulu and the third ancestor, Rester Ka, were engaged in a fierce battle. Because Dustless had trained him, Klulu's strength surpassed Rester Ka's, but it was still difficult for him to kill him. After all, Lester Ka was the third primogenitor, and his strength wasn't bad. Motherf Asterisk what the hell? For the first time in his life, Lester Ka cursed. Looking at him, his clothes were tattered like a beggar, and his face, which could be considered cute, was covered with dust and dirt. Why is the difference in strength so big? Am I a fake third primogenitor? Lester Ka grumbled to himself. He originally wanted to have a big battle with Klulu. The two of them had a lot of conflicts, and it was only a matter of time before they had to settle their grudges. Today was the best time. However, the result was a tragedy. Klulu seemed to have taken some kind of drug and beat Lester Ka up. There were a few times when Lester Ka would have been killed by Klulu if he didn't react quickly enough. Klulu, you still haven't finished here? A lazy voice came from afar. Klulu's beautiful eyes flashed, and after seeing who it was, he respectfully said, This guy isn't bad, but give me 10 more minutes. I'm sure I can kill him. Kill me in 10 minutes? Lester Ka's small face was red with anger. He said angrily, You think I'm a trash like Fried? You think you can kill me in a few minutes? Dream on. 10 minutes is indeed too long. I don't have that much time, so I'll kill you in a second. A ghostly voice suddenly came from behind. Lester Ka's body turned cold. The moment he turned his head, a cold light fell from above. Pucci. Lester Ka didn't even have time to react before his body was split in half by Dustless. This guy is my prey. After being stunned for a few seconds, Klulu said with dissatisfaction. There was no exception. Dustless could even crush the second primogenitor, let alone the third primogenitor. We still have other things to do. Let's go take care of xuanhuan and the others. Without waiting for Klulu's reaction, Dustless left first. What about Fried and Cory? Klulu asked with a frown. Hearing this, Dustless smiled mysteriously. Don't worry about them. A cruel queen will take care of them for me. Let's pray for Fried and Cory. Strange, why is my eyelid twitching recently? In a luxurious villa, Fried, who was drinking, suddenly muttered to himself. He had a feeling that something bad was about to happen. Is this the place? That guy Wuxian called me to this world just to do this kind of thing? That despicable guy, I thought he was the one who brought me out for a date. On a pile of rubble, a seductive figure stood. Her figure was extremely hot, her lips were red and her teeth were white. Her fair oval face was flawless. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 reviews plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 24:16. However, the guy Dustless still knows my hobby, which means that the kid still remembers me. The beautiful woman licked her lips, showing a horrible bloodthirsty smile, which instantly made her lose her beauty, as if she was incarnated into a female Shura who had killed countless people, which made people unable to help but feel creepy. It was worth mentioning that this coquettish woman with long blue hair had killed countless people. She was the sadist general who had a hobby of torturing others, is death. Dustless wanted to torture Fried not only for Old Giles but also for himself, but his ability to torture people was SOSO, so he thought of his death. In the past, his death had been staying in the system space and was quite bored. This time she was released by Dustless. She calmly looked at the world that she had never seen before, and her beautiful big eyes were full of curiosity. Forget it, let's finish the task given by Dustless first and then go on a date with him. It's better to have some beautiful things happen in the middle, such as giving birth to children and so on. Istetha's eyes were restored to coldness, looking at the villa in the distance, and suddenly snapped her fingers. Dare to provoke my man, you have a lot of courage. Snap. With a snap of his fingers, a terrifying ice ball suddenly condensed in the void and smashed down like a meteorite. Even the sky was covered by it. The surrounding vampires who saw it fled in panic. Because of the teaching of Dustless, Istetha's strength became extremely powerful, and she also ate the ice-cold fruit that belonged to Akiji in one piece. In addition, she was a fighting genius, so it was conceivable how strong she was. Who did this? The scene suddenly became chaotic, and Fried naturally noticed it. He hurriedly ran out of the villa, looking up at the huge ice ball that slowly fell from the sky, and his heart was full of despair. Gulp. Without exception, Crowley was also amazed. The huge meteorite ice was like the punishment of God, and its huge volume covered a radius of hundreds of meters. What are you doing? What are you looking at? Run for your life. Realizing that Corey was staring at him in a daze, Fried kicked him in annoyance. Soon after, the two of them hurriedly fled for their lives, their speed as fast as lightning. At the same time, Isteth, who was watching silently, also found Crowley and Fried. The speed of their escape was much faster than that of other vampires, which also indirectly showed that the strength of these two was better. They were probably the leaders of this group of vampires. Still want to run? Isteth smiled and chased after him like a gust of wind. Huff huff huff. After running for several kilometers, Fried and Crowley lay on the ground, gasping for air. The two of them were so tired that their backs were drenched in sweat and their legs were sore from running. That was definitely not a natural phenomenon, it was definitely man-made, Crowley said with extreme certainty. Of course I know. Fried nodded in agreement. With an ugly expression he said, it must be him. He actually destroyed our base. Hearing this, Crowley's heart sank. He naturally knew who he was talking about, Dustless. Recalling that his lair had been destroyed, Fried became furious and said angrily, Dustless, that damned bastard. In the future I will definitely, puff. Before Fried's voice fell, a black shadow fell from the sky and stepped on his head with a big foot. The heel of the high-heeled shoe was also stuffed into his mouth, piercing his throat directly and blood spurted out. It's just a bat, a beast. Do you think you can call me Dustless? Trash. There was no doubt that this godlike figure that fell from the sky was Isteth. She suppressed Fried with overwhelming strength in an instant, and there was no room for him to fight back. Who are you? Crowley on the side was also shocked. He pulled out his sword and stared at Isteth. It was too strange. He didn't even have time to react. Fried was killed in seconds. When he realized it, Istetha's heel had stepped on Fried's throat, and he screamed in pain. You are not qualified to ask who I am, and you are not qualified. Isteth smiled disdainfully. Her white face flashed a cold light. Her body was like lightning again and evaporated from Crowley's eyes. Where is she? Crowley was dumbfounded. What kind of freak was this? How could a human speed be so fast? Even the second ancestor, Saitu, couldn't do it. Idiot behind you. Fried, whose mouth was full of blood, reminded loudly, but it was too late. Istetha's speed was too fast. Poochie. The ice sword pierced Crowley's chest and penetrated him from the front to the back. The blood flowed down from the wound. Sure enough, as Dustless said, you are still alive after being injured like this. Are you a vampire? Interesting creature. Istetha's beautiful eyes blinked. She saw Fried standing up tremblingly. It could be seen that he was fine, and so was Crowley. Corey and Fried exchanged glances. Both of them could see the anger in each other's eyes. Out of nowhere, a mysterious character had suddenly appeared, grabbed the two of them and violently beat them up. Was there a mistake? I know what you want to say. Don't say it, I am not interested in listening. Istetha's eyes were filled with a raging red luster. She smiled bloodthirstily, You didn't offend me just because you offended Dustless. So, you too must die and slowly be trampled by me. It turned out to be Dustless's little brother. Crowley was relieved. No wonder his death wanted to kill him and Freed. He immediately said depressingly, however, why are the people around him such monsters? They are countless times more terrifying than those high-level ancestors. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 24:17. God is really unfair, all the benefits belong to that guy. Freed also nodded and couldn't help but look at his death. This mysterious woman was as beautiful as a goddess, exuding a noble temperament, and there was an indescribable sense of inferiority in front of her. Yeah, and this woman has a close relationship with Dustless, and her strength is unreliable. Friedcoin, maybe this is the end for us. Crowley said in a heavy tone, and he was shocked by Isthetha's overwhelming strength. Don't worry, I won't kill you. Isteth smiled charmingly, like a spring breeze, making people feel comfortable. At this moment she was very amiable. However, the following words caused Freed and Crowley's faces to darken. I like all kinds of torture. It's not easy to be released by that guy. Immortal bodies like you vampires must be the most suitable material. Isteth smiled again without the previous gentleness, this time it was the sneer of the Grim Reaper. Your Excellency, we don't have any grudges, why do we have to fight to the end? It's not good for anyone. Freed was indeed an old fox with an off-the-charts IQ. He knew that the chances of him and Crowley winning were slim, so he immediately changed his method. His tone was filled with bewitchment as he advised in a low voice, Dustless is a vicious and merciless person. Why don't we join hands to destroy him and divide the world? However, Isteth didn't speak, just looked at the two with a blank expression. Is it not enough? Crowley's eyebrows flashed and he added, how about this, after we join forces to destroy Dustless, the world will be divided 70-30? You two idiots. Isteth, who couldn't listen to it, opened her thin lips slightly and exhaled, compared with Dustless, even if you give the world to me it's still worthless, and you don't seem to understand the relationship between me and Dustless. That guy is my man, do you understand? Isthetha's words made Freed and Crowley's mood fall to the bottom. Before, they even thought of joining forces with Isteth to kill Dustless, but now it was ridiculous to think about it. It's time to teach you guys a lesson. Isthetha's eyes turned cold. With a wave of her slender hand, a large number of ice thorns appeared out of thin air and shot at Freed and Crowley, who were in a daze. Idiot, why are you still in a daze at this time? Hurry up and dodge. As if he sensed death, Freed shuddered and reminded Crowley beside him. Swish, swish. The two of them hurriedly retreated, dodging the icicles' attacks. Although they managed to react in time, there were simply too many icicles. Unavoidably, Freed and Crowley were hit by the icicles, their bodies riddled with holes. How are you, Crowley? Freed asked in a low voice. Just now, Crowley's reaction had been too slow, resulting in his body being struck. A large number of ice spikes had pierced into his body, resulting in hundreds of wounds. Don't worry, Dustless told me that the only way to kill a vampire is to use the Ghost Curse equipment. Unfortunately, I don't have it, so I'm destined not to be able to kill you too. Isthetha's pretty face was calm, and finally she suddenly laughed again. However, that guy also said that it would be more interesting to take away your vampire's heart and let you lose too much blood? Go. Hearing Isthetha's words, both Freed and Crowley felt a chill down their spines. This woman was simply a pervert. Vampires would mutate if they lost too much blood. It was better to kill them directly than to degenerate into ghosts. Let the show begin. Isteth didn't care what the two of them thought. Now she just wanted to enjoy herself. The enemy's howling was the most beautiful music for her. In Osaka City, the rest of the Emperor Ghost Army gathered here. The current marshal of the Emperor Ghost Army was Ikanes Akemi. This kid's promotion speed was definitely the fastest. Previously he was still a lieutenant colonel. Now he had become a marshal. How many levels did he jump at once? Himi, hurry up and fight with Dustless, that bastard. In the war conference room, Hyakuya Yuichiro couldn't wait to say, that guy killed Michael, I will make him regret living in this world. You idiot. Unexpectedly, Ikanes Akemi just scolded and sprayed her saliva on Hyakuya Yuichiro's face. Who is Dustless? The strongest man in the world, Wui. How can we fight with him? Unless that kid comes to us personally, I will never take the initiative to attack. Ikanes Akemi stubbornly said. Hearing that Dustless killed the first ancestor, her fear of Dustless became deeper and deeper. So as long as he didn't come to them, Ikanes Akemi decided to continue to be a coward. After all, even the blazing angel of termination was no match for Dustless in the end and was crushed. Truth be told, even in Xuanhuan's dreams she wanted to kill Dustless. However, that was just a dream. In reality she could only obediently become a stray dog. Don't tell me I don't want to avenge Michael? Hyakuya Yuichiro looked resentful. His right hand held the ghost-cursed Tachi tightly, and his body was erupting uncontrollably. There will be opportunities. I'm sorry, but not now. We need to accumulate strength. When we have enough strength in the future, we will destroy the great demon king. Ikanes Akemi patted Hyakuya Yuichiro's shoulder, a sincere look of consolation on her face. However, in her heart she disagreed. Brat, if it weren't for the fact that you are valuable to me as an important experimental subject, I wouldn't have taken special care of you. If you want to die, you should die early. If you die, you idiot, just treat it as purifying the air. Ikanes Akemi had a sincere smile on her face. Her heart was calculating. Hyakuya Yuichiro was an important experimental subject that must not be lost. In the future, when she mass-produced the Seraph of Termination, there would be no need to worry about not being able to destroy Dustless. P.S. 3,000 fresh flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 rating plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 24:18. Boom boom boom. A sudden explosion shook the heavens and the earth. Where the Emperor Ghost Army was stationed, a crimson ball of fire burned without restraint. Smoke that was dozens of meters high covered the sky, turning the blue sky black. The surrounding Emperor Ghost Army was burned to ashes. Those who didn't know would think that the end of the world had come. What's the situation? Did someone launch a sneak attack? Akira Haines, who was in the middle of brainwashing Yuichiro, was also shocked. Her heart sank. Such a violent explosion might even flatten the city walls that were used to fend off the vampires. Buzz buzz buzz. At the same time, the rumbling sound of machines came from the void as if demons had descended. It lingered in the air for a long time, and as time passed, the sound became louder and more frequent. This is bad. The faces of the King Ghost Army, who had been fighting vampires all year round, changed. They hurriedly dropped what they were doing and gathered their ghost curse weapons. The veterans all knew that the vampires had launched a large-scale attack. The buzzing sound came from the helicopter propellers. Damn it, who could be so generous? Ika's Honglian leaned against the window and stared at the densely packed number of helicopters in the distance. Her heart was at its limit. She was 100% certain that this was the final battle between the vampires and the vampires. There were at least several hundred helicopters gathered here. Ever since Dustless had destroyed most of the primogenitors, all the resources had fallen into Kelulu's hands. She was able to mobilize more troops and resources. After all, she was the only primogenitor left. You don't regret it? In one of the most luxurious helicopters, Dustless stood in front of the window, looking down at the Emperor Ghost Army that had been attacked by the flames of war on the ground. His eyes were cold. Krulu stood beside him. She was the one who asked the question. Regret? Dustless murmured thoughtfully. Then he asked slowly, You think that since I'm also a human, if I kill all the Emperor Ghost Army, the human race will also perish? Not bad. Krulu nodded. At that time, you might become the last human in this world. Wouldn't that be very lonely? So what? Dustless's reply was quick and decisive. His eyes were glittering as if he did not want to die. His tone suddenly became weathered. What does the life and death of the people have to do with me? All I did was destroy the Supreme Ghost Army. If the human race perishes, I won't meddle in other people's business. I'm not a racist. Of course I know you're not a racist. Otherwise we vampires would have been done for. Crew had no doubts about Dustless's strength. He alone was enough to destroy all the vampires. Let's go down and take a look. Dustless directly smashed the glass with his fist and jumped down from a height of over 100 meters, followed by Krulu. Kill all humans? Destroy the vampires. The two completely different races were at each other's throats. Neither side would let the other go. No matter which side lost, the final outcome would be a massacre. Puchi, puchi, puchi. As time passed, more and more vampires were turned into ashes. The winning side gradually became clear. The scales of victory were tilted toward the humans. Most of the humans were encouraged and focused on the battle, hoping to lead to the day of light as soon as possible. Of course, there were some people who saw something unusual. How strange. Why did the vampire nobles all disappear? Jun Yuefeng and Zhao Yinu frowned. They had been lucky enough to fight against the nobles. They knew very well that the vampires' top forces had not appeared. So far, the ones that appeared were just small fries. The reason is simple. It's because the nobles are all dead. Behind the two's backs, there was a movement without any warning. Moonjun Shifang and Zhao Yinu were both greatly shocked. Their current strength could be considered to have made some small achievements. Just who was it that could appear so silently? So it's you? Turning their heads, the two immediately saw Dustless and Crew. Yo, the two of you, how have you been? Dustless smiled and raised his hand to greet them. Those who did not know might really think that they were friends meeting. I can't wait to eat your flesh and drink your blood. As the saying goes, when enemies meet, their eyes turn red. Jun Yuefang gritted his teeth and stared at Dustless. His hands that were holding onto his blade were trembling. Kid, you still haven't realized? Dustless sighed and said with pity, the one who used you is Isis Korim. Your sister is still being locked up by him for all kinds of crazy human experiments. Don't try to drive a wedge between us. Do you think I'm an idiot? No, let's go together and destroy this guy. Jun Yuefang obviously did not want to listen to Dustless's nonsense. He held onto his blade and rushed forward. Swish, swish, swish. Zhao Yinu and Nu also pulled their bowstrings. A few powerful arrows pierced through the void and headed straight for Dustless's head. Playing with fire will get you burned. Dustless withdrew the pity on his face. Since they wanted to die, he would fulfill their wish. He immediately formed a hand seal. Fire release, grand fire annihilation. Boom, boom, boom. A vast sea of fire was blown out from Wu Chen's mouth. The surrounding temperature instantly increased by dozens of times. A large area of crimson flames crushed towards Jun Yuesher's side. The diameter of the flames was at least 20 to 30 meters. Everything was burned into ashes and scattered ashes. Ah! All of this happened too suddenly. By the time he realized that something was wrong, it was already too late. Jun Yuefang's entire body was engulfed by the flames. His entire body was set on fire. His entire body was charred black. The smell of charred corpse was nauseating. P.S. 3,000 fresh flowers plus more chapters, 3,000 rewards plus more chapters, 1,000 rating plus more chapters, 500 automatic subscriptions plus more chapters. Chapter 24:19. Jun Yu. Witnessing Moon Lord Jun being burned alive into a dried corpse, Zhao Yinu and Yi's faces were covered in tears. Their eyes stared blankly at the charred corpse that was burnt beyond recognition. Their eyes were dull as if their souls had been taken away. Don't be so sad. You can go accompany him soon. Dustless brushed past Zhao Yinu. This kid had already lost his will to fight. Killing him would be boring. Kalulu, I'll leave this kid to you. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. As soon as he finished speaking, Kalulu rushed out at full speed and disappeared in an instant. Ka. His slender white hand wrapped around Zhao Yinu's neck and suddenly twisted in the opposite direction. With a ka sound, he easily broke Zhao Yinu's neck and silently ended his life. Seriously, this group of minions also came out to play dumb. Dustless couldn't help but sigh as he lowered his head and stared at Zhao Yinu's corpse. Play dumb? Hearing this, Kalulu's face was conflicted and he was speechless. So in Dustless's eyes, other people's battles were purely playing dumb. This was too much of a blow to him. What do we do next? Kalulu asked respectfully. In his heart, he had already treated Dustless as a boss and listened to his every word. What do we do? It's very simple. Just kill them all. Dustless answered casually. This simple sentence determined the fate of all the Emperor Ghost Army. Only death awaited them. I understand. Kalulu didn't ask any more questions. When he saw that there were more Emperor Ghost Army, he decisively pounced over. Aren't you afraid that your bodyguards are gone? We brought our trump card here. You alone might die without a burial ground. This sudden voice was extremely cold and his tone was as cold as ice. At the same time, when he mentioned Dustless, it was filled with deep hatred. Do I still need bodyguards? What a joke. You yourself said that you might kill me. Actually, you don't have the confidence either. Dustless shifted his gaze and observed the figures from the corner of his eyes. He said indifferently, the actors are all here. That's right, we're all here. The show is about to begin. Ines Honglian pulled out the ghost curse equipment in her hand. Beside her was Yuichiro Hayakuya and the other containers controlled by the Royal Ghost Army. What a mistake it was to kill Jimu. Did you inherit his entire inheritance? Dustless's eyes flashed with a strange light. He couldn't help but take a few more glances at the rotten container. His eyes didn't move, as if there was some kind of treasure inside. His face flashed with a bright light, and then he said, "Inside that is the thing with Yuichiro, right?" She was Junyu Shifang's younger sister, Junyu Weilai. Hearing this, Ike's Kariko's pupils shrank and she said in a gloomy voice, You know more than I expected. You even know about this. You just found out? You were too naive in the past. You thought that you could hide anything from me? Naive. Dustless's gaze swept past the container and Yuichiro Hayakuya. He then looked at Ike's Kariko and said, "There are 2 seraphs of the end. Krulu will only be cannon fodder if he stays here." Kill you. Kill you. Kill you. Yuichiro Hayakuya's eyes were scarlet red. His entire body emitted an astonishing amount of killing intent. A bloody mist appeared behind him. He locked his gaze on Dustless, and the killing intent he emitted grew stronger. Is it because of Michael Hayakuya? Dustless looked at Yuichiro Hayakuya indifferently. That's right. I did kill that kid. His corpse was not even left. He was cut into pieces. Bastard, go to hell. Yuichiro Hayakuya rushed over. Even Ike's Kariko couldn't see his figure clearly. It was obvious that this kid had improved a lot. Of course, it could also be that after seeing Dustless, the strongest enemy in his life, Yuichiro Hayakuya's potential erupted. Bastard, you are too impulsive. Seeing this, Ike's Kariko cursed. She had told Yuichiro Hayakuya to follow the plan. Who would have thought that Dustless would go berserk? Go. Release the Seraph of the End. Helpless, Ike's Kariko could only give up on the plan and charge at Dustless with her katana. Creak. The container, which was covered with all sorts of talismans, was opened. An ominous aura immediately spread out. The King Ghost army could not help but tremble. Yuichiro, let's delay Dustless for a while. The Seraph still needs time to prepare. In order to fully awaken the Seraph of the End, there were still some prerequisites to be made. Unfortunately, Yuichiro Hayakuya's mind was consumed by hatred. He did not hear Ike's Kariko's words clearly. A sharp and dangerous cold light came at him. Dustless's head was about to be separated from his body. Even without Ajiramuru, Yuichiro Hayakuya had found a weapon that suited him. So scary. Seeing this, Dustless's calm face slightly loosened. It was as if he was really afraid and shocked. Only those who truly understood him knew that it was disdain. To deal with you, one hand is enough. Dustless did not waste any time and directly grabbed with his right hand. Pop. The dangerous and fatal katana slashed at Dustless's palm. The sharp blade that could cut through steel was useless. Dustless's palm did not bleed at all. Instead, he clenched his hand into a fist and suddenly grabbed the katana tightly. Let go of me. Yuichiro Hayakuya shouted angrily. He clenched his left hand into a fist and punched Dustless's cheek. Kid, don't get carried away. Dustless's eyes turned cold. He snorted and increased his strength slightly. The weapon in his hand exploded with a bang. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 rating plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2420. Gulp. Witnessing Dustless's brutality, Hayakuya Yuichiro woke up from his rage. His eyes widened as he stared at the broken blade in disbelief. He was in a terrible state. Yuichiro, why are you still in a daze? Hurry up and back off. Haine Sakura hurriedly reminded him. Hayakuya Yuichiro was her most important trump card. She could not afford to lose him. However, the kid remained unmoved. His ears seemed to be stuffed with donkey hair. He did not hear a thing and continued to stare blankly. Buzz buzz buzz. Dustless's right leg was engulfed by a large amount of golden light. The blinding light made it impossible to open one's eyes. If one looked at it for a second longer, one would be blinded. Lightspeed kick. This time Wuxin didn't show any mercy. That dazzling light beam shot towards Yuichiro's body. Immediately, a destructive energy fluctuation exploded. Yuichiro's body trembled. Yuichiro's body trembled. Boom boom boom. The destructive shockwave was repelled. Hayakuya Yuichiro's body exploded. The blazing flames quickly evaporated the moisture in the air. The air suddenly became abnormally dry. Hayakuya Yuichiro was tormented by the flames. He howled in pain. His body was burned to pieces. Some of his organs had melted and evaporated. His hoarse scream conveyed a message. He regretted challenging Dustless. He regretted living in this world. There was no harm in trying to imagine a person being burned alive to the point that their body peeled off and their skin melted. What kind of painful experience was that? Gulp. Not to mention others, even Haine Sakura, who had seen many things and had a will of steel, felt her legs go soft when she saw such cruel torture. She could not help but take a step back. Haine Sakura's impression of Dustless changed. He was not a human. He was not a vampire. He was an evil pervert. Why are you distancing yourself from me? Dustless did not look at Hyakuya Yuichiro. In the end, he was just a chess piece. No matter how strong he was just a chess piece. And chess pieces were destined to be abandoned. Hearing those words, Ikane Sakura did not say anything. She could not stop herself from backing away. Every time Dustless took a step forward, she would have to take 5 to 6 steps back before she could feel safe. Looks like he's scared. Dustless smiled and said proudly, "Should I celebrate if I can scare someone like you?" After saying that, Dustless continued to leisurely approach Haines Akatsuki. Unlike the nervous and frightened Haines Akatsuki, Dustless appeared to be taking a leisurely stroll. Don't come any closer. This was the first time in her life that she felt fear towards an enemy. Honglian, don't be afraid. Leave it to me. Suddenly, an inexplicable voice rang out within her mind. The pleasant tone of the voice was soothing to the ears. It was like a miraculous elixir, brushing away the fear within her heart. Leave it to me. The mysterious voice spoke up once more and Ike's Honglian's eyes became incomparably vacant. She nodded her head gently like a zombie and her consciousness fell into the bottomless abyss to be replaced by a brand new consciousness. I'm finally out for some fresh air. Ikanes Akatsuki, who was backing away, suddenly stopped. She rested her tachi on her shoulder and took a deep breath of air. Although this rotten air is nauseating, it sure is refreshing. Is there a switch? Dustless stopped as well. He noticed that Ikanes Akatsuki's eyes had changed. Previously they were pure black. Now they were scarlet like a vampire's eyes. They were filled with all sorts of calamitous omens. Aren't you going to introduce yourself? I am Yamasato. Dustless's soft words caused Ikanes Akatsuki to frown. No, to be more precise, Yamasato, who was controlling Ikanes Akatsuki's body, felt his heartstrings twitch. Let's make a deal. Ikanes Akatsuki, who was controlled by Yamasato, spoke up. Let me go, and this world, you are not qualified to make a deal with me. Without giving Yamasato a chance to talk nonsense, Dustless said bluntly. There are only 2 ways to deal with my enemies. Either they are chopped into pieces or they disappear without a trace. Little girl, seeing your sincerity, I will be merciful this time and choose a way for Ikanes Akatsuki to die. It's rare to see someone as arrogant as you. Yamasato was not as angry as he imagined. Instead, he said in a light tone. You have taken care of my sister for so long. I should at least say thank you before the battle. You're welcome. It's just a spur-of-the-moment thing. Maybe this is fate. Dustless said. In the end, he shook his head and sighed. However, I still lost her in the end. I hope his death can find her. Then I won't be polite. The moment his voice fell, Ikanes Akatsuki, who was controlled by Yamasato, suddenly attacked. Her speed was not ordinary. A cold wind blew quietly, but Yamasato arrived beside Dustless. His body seemed to be attached to the cold wind. He raised his hand and slashed. Bang. This slash, before it could get close to Dustless, was blocked by a special energy barrier. This is... Yamasato squinted his beautiful eyes. He saw a substantial force shrouding Dustless, and his whole body was tightly defended. It was like drilling into an iron bucket with no blind spots. There were no loopholes in his body. With your strength, it's impossible to break Kinsusanoo. You have to be 100 times stronger than you are now to break its invincible defense. Dustless kindly reminded Yamasato of the strength needed to break Kinsusanoo, but it sounded more like a blow to others. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 24-21. You're right. I don't have the ability to deal with you, but... Lin Jinzhou paused, and a confident smile appeared in his voice. You seem to have forgotten that the main force against you has never been me. Boom. The container prepared by the Emperor Ghost Army suddenly burst open, and a large number of chains came out of it. The front end was connected to a sharp dagger. These chains trembled unconsciously as if they were alive, which was extremely strange. Phew. The rotten chains shook unconsciously, and it didn't take long for them to show their ferocious nature, locking the surrounding life forms and stabbing them with great hunger. Puchi. 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 Whether it was the Emperor Ghost Army or the vampires, they were all the prey of these chains. They were pierced by the dense chains and devoured their blood. Playing this trick again? Dustless stared at the dilapidated container and sniffed twice, frowning. Such a disgusting smell. The last time Yuichiro Hyakuya went berserk, this smell was also the same. Are all angels so disgusting? Have you not bathed for many years? You, hearing this, Jin Jinzhou's mouth twitched a few times, showing a rare speechless expression. Your Excellency's thinking is really difficult for ordinary people to guess. Of course, after all, our realms are different and our worldviews are too different. Dustless nodded. What the hell is this? The vampires and the Emperor Ghost Army stopped fighting. At this moment, they were chased by those chains, their bodies were pierced by sharp daggers, the blood in their internal organs was hollowed out, and they became horrifying skin and bones, humans. In the void there was a faint voice. Although it was very subtle, it really existed. Everyone heard it and everyone looked around looking for the source of the sound. However, this sound seemed to come from another space and no one could find it, including Krulu, who was also at a loss. Pretending to be mysterious. Only Dustless looked at the container thoughtfully. Through the perception of observation haki, he was clearly aware that some powerful creature in the container was waking up. Boom boom boom. A moment later the container suddenly exploded into pieces. Then a sacred light overflowed and spread to every corner of the world. Heaven's angel? Such a huge change attracted the attention of many people. Both the vampires and the Emperor Ghost Army noticed the mysterious girl standing in the void. She had a pair of sacred wings on her back, and strange purple patterns on both sides of her cheeks. Her eyes were emotionless as if she was a god looking down on ants. There was only contempt in her eyes. This angel's appearance was that of Jun Yueme's younger sister, Jun Yueme. If that brat were to see his younger sister become a test subject, he would probably crawl out of his coffin and tear Issei's Korea apart. Humans who have violated the taboo should be destroyed. The angel incarnation of Jun Yueme gloomily said. A golden horn suddenly appeared at her mouth. Without hesitation she blew the music of destruction. Woo woo woo, the sound of the horn echoed throughout the world, and the earth shook with a ka-ka-ka sound. The surface of the earth quickly collapsed, and dense cracks gradually appeared. In the blink of an eye, the earth within a radius of a few kilometers was swallowed up. It was as if the end of the world had come. Puchi, puchi, puchi. A large number of small mountains sprang out from the depths of the ground. Many vampires and the Emperor Ghost Army were pierced by this thing. Their bodies were chewed up and they died without a complete corpse. You're caught in a trap of your own making. Seeing this scene, Dustless didn't have the slightest pity. This thing was originally created by the Emperor Ghost Army. Now it's not wrong to suffer the wrath of an angel. And you too. His eyes moved and fell on Lin Jinzhou, who controlled Issei's Korea's consciousness. The Emperor Ghost Army is all dead. You can't control the angel. At that time you will also be the target of this thing. So what? Lin Jinzhou said indifferently, as long as Korea can survive, it doesn't matter even if the world experiences another destruction. The life and death of the people have nothing to do with me. Bang. At this moment, Jun Yue's body changed again. Her back suddenly exploded. Without warning, a blood-red unknown creature sprang out. Its entire body was stained with blood. Whoa! The hoarse cry of a beast resounded. Looking up, the thing that escaped from Jun Yue's body revealed its true appearance. It had turned into an ugly giant bug. Its hoarse roar was earth-shattering. A large number of mysterious spheres fell from this monster. The moment they fell to the ground, they all shattered with a crack sound. A dense swarm of bugs occupied the ground. Whether it was the Emperor Ghost Army or the vampires, they were all slaughtered. This is an angel? It's obviously a bug. Looking up at the void, Dustless discovered that this huge bug was several meters tall. Its mouth was full of fangs and its appearance was also extremely ugly. It was the type that one would never forget for the rest of their life. Hehe, have fun with it. I'll take my leave first. Forgive me for not accompanying you. Lin Jinzhou said and turned to leave. In just a few seconds, his figure had already faded. Did you turn a deaf ear to what I said before? Issei's Korea must die, including this so-called angel. No, it would be more appropriate to call it a bug. All of you will die. In front of me there is no exception. Dustless said coldly. He looked up at the sky and smiled eerily at the so-called angel. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 reviews plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 24-22. Get the hell down here. Dustless's eyes were deathly still. his large hand suddenly grabbed at the air, causing the horizon to tremble. 10,000 mammoth heavenly attraction. Boom boom boom. A boundless gravitational force erupted. Dustless's small hands were like the hands of God. No one could escape his judgment. Even the horizon was distorted, and the wind and clouds that gently swept past were pulled over. Under the dumbfounded gazes of countless people, the huge body of the huge bug that stood in the air began to tremble slowly. It even let out a series of bestial cries. Clearly, it could not escape the binding of the gravitational force. Monster. That huge bug is so powerful. That Dustless can actually forcefully pull it over? Those who knew Dustless were shocked. This scene was too shocking. That bug was unable to escape Dustless's judgment even though it was dozens of meters away. That loud bestial cry sounded more like fear in everyone's eyes. It turned out that the so-called angels also had things that they were afraid of. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. The ugly bug could not withstand the gravitational force of the 10,000 mammoth heavenly attraction. Finally, its huge body began to fall, rapidly falling towards Dustless's location. Good timing. Seeing this, Dustless grinned. His feet were firmly planted on the ground, and his legs were slightly bent, as if he was preparing to accumulate power. Bang. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. Following the sound of a red lotus, Dustless suddenly disappeared. His body shot straight into the sky like a rocket. The ground where he was previously standing had been completely destroyed, and a deep pit was formed. Lightspeed kick. Just as he was about to come into contact with the huge bug, Dustless raised his large foot and viciously kicked out. His destructive vision pounced on that ugly head. Boom boom boom. The instant the lightspeed kick hit the bug, a destructive shockwave erupted. Half of its head was incinerated, and dark red blood flowed out from it. Ow. The huge bug seemed to be truly enraged. It opened its mouth full of fangs and roared at Dustless. Furthermore, a column of something similar to blood spurted out from its throat. The power of an ant. Seeing this, Dustless only laughed in disdain, and the corners of his dry mouth slightly opened. Binding Tao 81 sky-shattering. A transparent barrier as thin as a cicada's wing suddenly appeared in front of Dustless. Bang! Without a doubt, the thick beam of light hit the barrier. This barrier that seemed like it could be broken with a single stab was unexpectedly sturdy. It was still standing even after taking a blow from the terminating seraph. This guy actually fought against the seraph of termination? Is this something humans can do? In the distance, Sakatani, who had fled far away, had a look of uncertainty on her face. The seraph of terminus could easily destroy the world. Forget humans, not even vampires were a match for it. However, when it came to Dustless, it turned out to be a loser's counterattack. The human overpowered the seraph of terminus. Yo, where do you want to go? Just as Ichiro, who was under the control of Ichiro Masaharu, thought that she could escape, an unexpected voice suddenly entered her ears. Who are you? The moment she noticed the appearance of this person, Ichiro's heart suddenly became restless and filled with uneasiness. This person was as beautiful as a fairy, a rare beauty. Even Ichiro, who was a woman, was secretly shocked. How could there be such a beautiful woman in this world? First, let me introduce myself. The mysterious person smiled faintly. Ichiro was dazed for a moment. If she were a man, she might really pursue this person. My name is Boa Hancock. I was sent by Lord Dustless to destroy you. This simple self-introduction sent Ichiro to the 18th level of hell. She felt extremely depressed. She could feel the invincibility of this person in front of her. On the other side, the battle between humans and insects in the sky was about to come to an end. Looking closely, this huge insect was already riddled with holes. Its whole body was full of holes. It was ravaged by wuxia. Bursts of wails were earth-shattering. It's about time to end it. Dustless quietly hovered in the void. At the same time, his right eye also changed. It turned into a blue and white eye. The black eyeball also disappeared and was replaced by an irregular round lace. It was extremely mysterious. In front of this eye, everything seemed insignificant. The creatures that were targeted by it all trembled in fear. Awoo! Even the so-called seraph of termination was the same. It was still wailing. It no longer had the ferocity from before. Instead, it seemed like it was begging for mercy. However, Dustless didn't even look at it. His eyes were still like stagnant water. Only pure killing intent shot out. Tensigan chakra mode. Dustless gently closed his eyes. His expression was calm and steady. Immediately, his hands suddenly formed a few hand seals. His body actually emitted an emerald luster that covered his entire body. His appearance also changed drastically. The truth-seeking orb floated behind him. His originally cold eyes became even colder. Whether you can hear me clearly or not, I have to tell you that it's your fortune to die under this move. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 24-23. Am I dreaming? That guy named Dustless is too powerful. He actually beat that monster until it bowed its head and admitted its mistake. Is this really reality? Feels like a hallucination. The state of the Seraph of Termination attracted the attention of many people. Everyone looked at the giant insect bowing its head and admitting its mistake, shaking its head and bending its legs slightly. Everyone felt that it was unbelievable. They couldn't even deal with the cocoon from this monster's body, but Dustless actually beat it until it bowed its head and admitted its mistake. The gap between people was too big. For a moment, all the vampires and humans were full of admiration for Dustless. Fortunately, I joined Dustless instead of challenging Dustless like that idiot Freed Bartlett. Otherwise, I would have died without a burial place. Whoa. The giant insect continued to wail, his hoarse voice begging for mercy, and his miserable appearance made people want to sympathize with him. But Dustless's heart was like a stone, extremely cold-blooded, and his calm eyes had no color fluctuations. Let alone letting him go, he didn't even have the basic sympathy. You only know fear when I take out my tensigan? You want me to let you go? Now it's too late, go repent in the hell. Dustless raised his right hand, and a fierce repulsive wave erupted from his palm. Bang! The powerful repulsive force directly hit the Seraph of Termination's body. The shell all over his body seemed to be made of plastic. It suddenly collapsed and countless cracks appeared. Who allowed you to stand in the sky? Get down from here. The chakra in Dustless's body increased again, and a ripple of energy visible to the naked eye came out of his hand and rushed straight to the Seraph of Termination. Bang bang bang. After being hit by the repulsive force a few times, the hateful fat insect finally couldn't resist anymore, and was blasted from the sky to the ground by Dustless, smashing a deep pit. Tisk tsk. This is too weak. I only got a little serious and it's already gone. Seeing the end of the battle, the blazing angel wailed on the ground. He tried to stand up a few times but fell to the ground instead. Dustless also lost interest. His mind waning, he descended from the sky and appeared beside Krulu. Lord Dustless. When he saw Dustless, Kelyalu hurriedly lowered his head and used honorifics. Why didn't I see you being so obedient before? Dustless rolled his eyes and said indifferently, Soon I will leave this world. What's your choice? Leave? Krulu's heart trembled. She had long heard that Dustless would disappear, but she didn't know where he went. You can follow me or you can refuse. Seeing the girl's hesitation, Dustless said, I won't force you. After all, you have your own life. After we leave, we will never return to this world. Can be said to be an eternal farewell. Just me and Lord Dustless? Krulu asked with some apprehension. Originally there was also the 3 palaces, 3 leaves and Wuxialover, but I don't know where those 2 girls went. Dustless sighed faintly and said, I hope they will appear when I leave. Whoa. A furious roar filled with endless hatred shook the heavens. A visible ripple swept across the sky like a shock wave, spreading into the distance. Yo! Dustless grinned and looked at the dying big insect. He laughed and said, We have underestimated this thing. This beast's vitality is very strong. Beast. Hearing this, Krulu was also speechless. The Seraph of Termination was a worm in Dustless's mouth. Even if it looked like a worm, it was still a godlike existence. Now Dustless actually called someone else a beast. Could he not be so arrogant? Boom boom boom. The huge bug flapped its wings and soared high again. Violent wind and waves rushed out from its 2 wings. Its ugly eyes were scarlet as if they were burning with raging flames. It looked down at Dustless from the sky. Still holding a grudge. Just now Dustless beat this thing up, so it probably hated him in its heart. Don't worry, you don't have to look at me so fiercely. You will also die and die without a burial place. Not even the remains of your corpse will be left. Dustless blinked his eyes, and the scarlet eternal kaleidoscope was exposed to the air. Those mysterious eyes were like black holes, and looking at them would cause one to sink into them. Whoa! The huge insect opened its mouth again, and a thick black pillar came out, directly smashing towards Dustless. Amaterasu. Dustless coldly snorted, and the power of his eyes was twisted to the extreme. Awoo, the giant bug screamed again. He raised his head and looked. In the blink of an eye, his body was burning with black flames. The evil fire quickly dismembered his skin, followed by his flesh and blood, and then his internal organs. There was no exception. Even the black liquid that was about to hit Dustless was burned without a trace. Under Amaterasu, everything will be turned into ashes. From the beginning to the end, in just a few seconds, the Seraph of Termination, that is, the big flying insect, was burned to ashes, and even the bones were swept away by Amaterasu. It died just like that? The Seraph of Termination was easily destroyed in a snap of a finger. The shocked Krulu couldn't even speak and looked at Dustless with eyes full of questions. That's probably it, killing that insect and leaving its corpse? Amaterasu is not such a gentle ninjutsu. That guy has already disappeared without a trace. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 reviews plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 24. After Dustless finished off the Seraph, Boa Hancock's battle also came to an end. Bang! Hancock stepped on Xuanhuan's chest, her eyes as cold as ice, and declared domineeringly, "Children's fight, how long are you going to continue? Show me your full strength." Hearing this, a helpless smile appeared on Xuanhuan's face. How disappointing. That was my full strength. Even my ghost was beaten away by you. Just now, Kaijin Hiru was controlling Xuanhuan, but he was beaten away by Hancock, and Xuanhuan's consciousness was restored. There was a sense of helplessness in Ikane's Red Lotus words. She could not help but look up at the heavens and ask absent-mindedly, "Is the gap between me and Dustless that big? What did that guy do to deserve it?" What? Bang! Who would have thought that before a Xuanhuan could finish her nonsense, Hancock's foot swept over. The heel of her high heels directly blocked a Xuanhuan's throat. Don't get carried away. You want to be on equal footing with Lord Dustless? Do you know? You don't even have the qualifications to carry his shoes. Hancock smiled disdainfully and said sarcastically, 1,000 years ago Dustless Sama was at the top of a planet. Now he is willing to put down his status and play with you ants. You should feel honored. Hancock sneered, her beautiful and enchanting cheeks were full of ridicule. You're about to die, yet you still dare to speak such arrogant words. From the beginning to the end, you've chosen the wrong opponent. Hancock said coldly, as Dustless Sama once said, the biggest mistake of humans is not being weak, but being distracted. He didn't figure out who he should offend and who he shouldn't. All in all, I only have one conclusion for your short life. You are blind. Hancock was disdainful. Dustless was a god in her heart. Ikane's Hung Lotus was overestimating herself if she thought she could defeat him. My blazing angel of termination will definitely destroy that fellow. Ines Red Lotus shouted furiously. That is the incarnation of God. It can destroy the world. Really? Hancock pursed her lips into a smile, and the seductive charm that flowed out of her was captivating. I forgot to tell you. During the 1,000 years that I've followed Lord Wu Qin, countless gods and planets have been destroyed by him. I can count them with 2 hands. Crack. As soon as she finished speaking, Hancock stepped on Xuanhuan's throat and broke it. This kind of ant was not qualified to talk about Dustless. A little mouse actually wanted to fight with the person who destroyed a planet and even wanted to defeat him. Wasn't that too ridiculous? Hancock was done and so was his death. What? I thought Dustless had found a good toy for me, but it turns out that it's just a one-time thing. To think that I thought I could torture him forever. TSK, how disappointing. In the torture room full of blood, this was used by vampires to extort confessions from the Emperor Ghost Army, but now the roles were changed, and it was this death who tortured Freed and Crowley. Quick, kill me quickly. On the cross, Freed's body was already riddled with holes. It was a horrible sight to behold, and his chest was a mess of flesh and blood. However, this was not the most horrible thing. Freed's feet were cut off and placed on the stove respectively. The fire was not very big, so it would not burn his 2 legs, but the pain was unbearable. As for the 2 arms, they were placed in a sealed jar. They were smeared with honey and stuffed with a large number of ants. All of them were slowly tearing at Freed's flesh. As for his head, it was also cut off and soaked in salt water. Such a horrible punishment, only people like his death could think of it. Not only Freed but Crowley was also tortured like this. He was tortured to death. How do you feel? Is it unforgettable? Isteth put her hands on her waist, her long blue hair reached her calves, she held her head high, her hot cleavage was high, and the leather clothes were tight, it could burst at any time. You demon! Crowley's eyes were dirty and he said weakly, "If you have the guts, just kill me directly, I won't even blink, damn woman." "Hey, you have a backbone, I just like such a stubborn temper." Isteth smiled cruelly, her soul-stirring cheeks flashed a touch of madness. "It's over, it's over, it's over." Seeing Isteth's expression, Crowley immediately regretted and Freed showed sympathy. He had seen that Isteth and Dustless belonged to the same kind of people. She was only interested in the prey that resisted. "Have a good experience." Isteth held an iron spoon in her hand, swirling the red liquid, and poured it all on Crowley's head. "Ah!" A scream like a pig being slaughtered suddenly came out. The painful howl was full of endless regret. If he knew this, he would not have challenged Isteth. That was lava. "You can't stand it? Trash, this is the torture that you vampires use on humans. I didn't even use my own tricks." Isteth was full of contempt. This torture room was originally a vampire's. It was usually used to torture the Emperor Ghost Army to obtain useful information. "Ah. Let's stop here, it's time for us to leave." Dustless suddenly came out of the dark corridor. Behind him, Hancock was like a little follower. "Poochie. Poochie. Poochie." Dustless glanced at Freed and Crowley lightly. He took a Jiruo pill in his hand and cut their heads one after another. They were turned into ashes. Before leaving, the two sincerely said thank you. Compared with his death, Dustless was simply an angel. At least he would not use such torture as knee-digging and dismembering. Chapter 24-25. By the way, her star-like bright eyes blinked slightly. Isteth held her chin with her hand and said, "I forgot to tell you. I just found 2 little girls. They said they knew you. They seem to be called Sangong Sanyi and Ran Xiaoya. That's good." Hearing that, Wu Chen finally let out a sigh of relief. His heart had always been concerned about the 2 girls. "Sir Dustless, are you done with the trivial matters?" Hancock, who was standing on the side, asked abruptly. Her eyes were filled with a lovely smile, and her cheeks were puffed up. The faint feeling of seduction was very appetizing. "Of course." Isteth nodded immediately and looked at Dustless. "Ahem." Noticing the changes in the expressions of the 2 women, Dustless coughed awkwardly and suddenly understood the thoughts of the 2. He waved to Krulu and said, "I have something to say to the 2 of them. You can leave here for a while." Krulu looked at Dustless with surprise, and immediately glanced at Isteth and Hancock from the corner of her eyes. Finally, she nodded slightly and left. Hoo-hoo! On the deserted roof, the cold wind whistled. Krulu's coat was blown high and her snow-white legs were exposed. Krulu's eyes looked at the distant sky in a daze. Those 2 women. Where did they come from? They seemed to be very familiar with Sir Dustless. Their relationship must not be ordinary. And they're so beautiful. Krulu's mind was full of Hancock and Isteth. At this moment, Her Majesty Queen was in a daze with an inexplicable melancholy. After all, she had lived for thousands of years. Krulu's experience was beyond doubt. Although her strength was not as good as Hancock and Isteth, her experience was much more than the 2 women. What Dustless said just now, Krulu naturally understood what it meant. "Don't hide, come out." After being silent for a short while, Krulu suddenly opened his dry mouth. "You want to know who the 2 women are, right? Actually, I don't know either. It's fine that she's so beautiful, but she's so strong that she's unreliable. Damn God, sometimes it's really unfair." After Kululu said this, 2 figures walked up the stairs to the roof. The 2 women looked at each other. It was Sangong, Sanyi and Sanxiaoya. The 2 girls were humans while Kululu was a vampire. If it was in the past, it would have been a bloody battle. However, in this world, both humans and vampires had been destroyed one after another. The hatred between the 2 races had also disappeared. That makes sense. The 3 palaces, 3 leaves and Xuanhuan nodded in agreement. Jealousy is useless. Those 2 women are different. Apart from being beautiful, they are also very strong. As you can see, Lord Dustless trusts them very much. Kululu's beautiful eyes couldn't help but dim. In terms of beauty, she thought that she was not inferior to Hancock and Isteth, but the key was that she lost in strength. When the gap in strength was big, there was a gap in temperament in all aspects. In front of Hancock and Isteth, Kululu always felt a little ashamed. Of course, this was only in terms of strength. On the other side, Dustless also opened his eyes from a drunken stupor. This is really a bad habit. After a long time, you can annihilate yourself, forget your dreams and easily make mistakes. Femme fatale is not wrong at all. In the warm cup, Dustless looked up at the ceiling and muttered to himself. At this moment he enjoyed the blessing of having 2 women. Hancock and Isteth were nestled on his left and right sides, and their heads were on Dustless's shoulders. The 3 of them were naked and their clothes didn't cover their bodies. Hancock and Estetha's delicate and pretty faces were still blushing as if they were drunk. People with sharp eyes could also catch the satisfaction in the eyes of the two women. It was self-evident what they had just experienced. You are really a playboy. You have a group of beautiful wives at home and you are still fooling around outside. Estetha stared at Dustless with dissatisfaction, and at the same time pinched his waist. Although Hancock didn't act like Estetha, she also snorted. You can't say that. Dustless was indifferent and explained faintly, first of all, they are still virgins. I didn't do anything out of the ordinary. They are willing to follow me. Isn't it because of your flowery words that deceived our sisters? Hancock rolled her eyes. She had a deep understanding of Dustless's despicable, shameless, and insidious nature. This time it's not my fault. Instead, it's your appearance that stimulated their competitiveness. Dustless's eyes flashed with a wisp of wisdom, and he calmly explained, women are very complicated creatures. When they see beautiful things, they want to compete. For example, the appearance of you two, your perfection made them see their flaws, so it also stimulated their competitiveness. Originally, they didn't want to go with me. As a result, when they saw the strength of you two, they also had the desire to become stronger, so they chose to follow me. After all, it's all your fault. I didn't want to attract women, but the appearance of you two caused me to fall into the fire pit. Dustless, your shamelessness has refreshed my understanding. That kind of cute little girl is around you, is it also called falling into the fire pit? Estetha was speechless on Dustless's chest. This guy is really getting more and more shameless. Of course, after all, I am a person who is loyal to marriage. Dustless said calmly without blushing. The two women couldn't wait to beat this guy. You have a group of wives and concubines, how dare you say that you are loyal to marriage? Chapter 24-26. Forget it, you are used to being free. We can't stop you. But Dustless, you have to remember one thing, don't do anything wrong to others. I can see that the three girls care about you very much and treat you as a support. Estetha looked at Dustless seriously with a little warning. They are all very cute. Boa Hancock also nodded and agreed. Do you two know how to talk? Am I that kind of ruthless person? Dustless's face was extremely strange, especially when Estetha just said that he was a ruthless scum. Let's change the topic. Since the things that should be solved have been solved, then let's leave. After putting on his pajamas, Dustless went to the window and looked at the world full of ruins. After a while, he shook his head and said, it's too boring. In the next day, Dustless gave a lot of time to Mia, Sani, Klulu, and wuxiia. They still had some trivial things to deal with, especially wuxiia. Although the Yu family was destroyed, there were still some people who escaped the attack of xianxia, but wuxiia didn't have a good impression of them. After that, she went to burn a few incense sticks for Yu Qianli, and then left with Dustless. After that, Dustless and the rest vanished from this world without a trace. Under the blue sky, the pedestrians on the road hurried away. Everyone's expression was busy. People's long life was like this. After getting married and having children, they had to think about the future, and their career was getting busier and busier. However, there were exceptions. On a bench in a park, a young man was sitting with a tangled face. He looked very lazy and had no fighting spirit. It's really a bad year. How can I travel to such a strange world? There is no market for men. It's just a group of women fighting with Nova. Are you kidding me? Dustless looked up at the sky, his expression was a little bitter. After experiencing so many worlds, it was the first time that he traveled to such a special planet. It seems to be called the world of 0-degree warrior. Dustless muttered to himself. Just as he was pondering, a golden-haired little brat suddenly walked over and berated, "Hey, you're my servant from now on." This kid had a cute appearance. He was not old, estimated to be at most 5 or 6 years old. He was dressed well. At first glance, he was the young master of a big family. At this moment, the child looked at Dustless with an arrogant and proud face. Wuxian didn't say anything and just looked at him quietly. He was just a child. There was no need to argue with him. The reason why this child wanted Wuxian to be his servant was that he had just beaten up a few hooligans who were looking for trouble. This kid happened to see it, so he followed him all the way. Let's go and eat something. Disinclined to talk nonsense, Wuxian left directly. Stop right there. Do you know who I am? The golden-haired child saw that he was being ignored and immediately said angrily, I'm the eldest son of Brigid's family. Watch your attitude. If you don't obey me, I can break your legs at any time. Dustless family? After hearing this family, Dustless suddenly stopped in his tracks. A terrifying murderous intent flashed in his eyes. He stared at the kid carefully and asked indifferently, Then I will go with you. Bring me to your family now. The reason why he agreed to go to this kid's family was naturally to get rid of this disgusting family. Dustless didn't have a good impression of them at all. I thought you had a lot of integrity. It turns out that you're just a money-grubbing trash. Ah. Sure enough, money is the best medicine for everything. The golden-haired brat curled his lips and sneered. He didn't notice Wu Chen's coldness. Bumping into me only means that your family has reached a certain level. Dustless sneered in his heart. He looked at the kid and asked, Are you called Louis L. Dustless? Aha, you know me? The kid was stunned. Then he laughed proudly and said, I didn't expect to be so famous at such a young age. Haha, what AF asterisk king retard. Dustless lowered his head and looked at the kid. He wanted to kill him more and more. The world was so big but they had to meet in such a small place. All this showed that this kid deserved to die. My name is Dustless. Bring me to your family quickly. Dustless urged impatiently. Let me, a country bumpkin who has never seen the world, see a little of what a rich family is like. Okay. Then I will open your eyes. You country bumpkin, don't be scared. Louis nodded lightly. Soon, a group of men in black ran over and surrounded him. They were probably Louis's bodyguards. Then a few black luxury cars drove over. Dustless and Louis sat in the same car. Hey. Can you teach me the move you used just now? How much is it? Name a price. I may be young but my father is very rich. He can buy the whole world. Louis introduced arrogantly. I will teach you when we get to your house. Dustless replied casually. He kept looking at the scenery outside the window. He would destroy this family later as a punishment for evil and a reward for good. Ah. With your skills, that stupid sister of mine will definitely obey. If she dares to disobey me, I will make her and her mother my slaves. Louis laughed crazily. His eyes were full of lust. However, it was his casual words that attracted Dustless's attention. Tell me about your sister. Dustless asked in boredom. I can teach you a very powerful move. You can fight 100 people at once. Really? Louis L. Dustless said happily. Okay. My sister just came yesterday. She seems to be my father's affair partner. Her name is Chataliza L. Dustless.